Hey YouTube! Hey YouTube! How's it going? I've been off for a couple of days. I've got a sore tooth. Put on antibiotics. I've just been kind of meh. So I've not done anything apart from been playing my new guitar. Unfortunately, I got this about the same time as the white Yamaha, and I really like that as well. I think I got that maybe the day before. I bought this on eBay. Kind of one of those I didn't expect to get it, and as you can tell, I bought it because of the colour mostly. This is a called Blue Burst. If you see there, that is a Westone Prestige 227. That is in the Red Burst, which also came in Blue Burst, but this is a so it's sort of silvery in the middle and then sort of blue around the outside, sort of candy apple blue, metallic. Same on the back of the headstock as well. So this is from 1984, as the same year as that, and it's called a Spectrum 3. If you look up Westones, there's a really good site, WestoneGuitars.net, which has got all the brochures and catalogues for Westone, which is nice actually having a full set of these things when you're looking up the vintage guitars. So there we go there. It's another guitar I've got, which I didn't really realise how similar it was to this until I got it really. I've got a Concord H2, which is basically this guitar apart from it's an all maple neck, and it's two humbuckers, doesn't have the middle pickup. Also it's 1983, so this model, apparently reading on the bottom of the brochure there, it says H2 and H3 were discontinued and these replaced them, the Spectrums. So there must have been a Concord H3 with the three pickups. I'm interested in looking at the picture in that in the catalogue. There's a plate around about the 5-way switch, which this one doesn't have, so I don't know how that went on. So 1984 was the year of black hardware sort of starting to come in. I should have looked it out. The Concord I've got has it's silver hardware. It's got a switch here, the pickup selector's here, and also this is the year that they brought out these knobs. See the ones that are sort of thinner at the bottom and wider at the top? That's because 1984 was the year of the push-pull pot as well. So the other one I've got, the Concord, has got mini switches, whereas for 1983 to 1984 they'd sourced push-pull pots. Do the same things actually. So this is the top tone control, which is actually the tone control for this humbucker. There's a dual coil split which splits both of the humbuckers down to single coils. The other tone control, which is the tone control for this bucker, is a phase reverse for the middle pickup. It's actually a phase reverse on the Concord as well, but it actually reverses one of the coils of the humbucker, and this one, what it does is it reverses this, so you get phase positions in positions 2 and 4. Yeah, so again, these Westone make the best cheapest guitars. This is the Spectrums came out proper in 1985 when they had they're not quite this shape. This is very much the Westone Thunder shape, the same as the Concord H2, and well, kind of the same as the Prestige as well. The later Spectrums are a bit more pointy, a bit more Strat shaped, but still very much of the same family. This has also got an upgraded bridge on it. This has got, what do they call it? The precision bridge, precision tremolo tailpiece, which I believe might have sometimes also been called a bend master. BC Rich guitars had shit. There was a lot of guitars in the 80s and 90s that had shit versions of these that were made of sort of super crumblo metal. These are solid steel, so although they look the same, they're not the same. But just generally a bit better than a Strat trem. It's a Strat trem that's on the Concord I've got. I really should do a comparison of the two. This is the same bridge that's on the Prestige actually. Look, I probably played slightly too much for this, but it's quite rare being a Spectrum 3. I don't think I've ever actually seen one, and also I was bought over by the colour. But new, the price list, which is also quite handy on this website. This is 220 quid and that's 320 quid, so that's a significantly more expensive guitar than this. Pickups are called hammers. I believe they're MMK45s. I didn't actually look inside it because it worked when I got it. I'm not sure, although they all say MMK45 in the back, I'm not sure they're the same pickups every year, if you know what I mean. I think just because they use the same back plate made by the same company doesn't necessarily mean they put the same magnets and stuff on them. So these are called Hammer at this point, and I really like the Hammer pickups in my yellow Concorde, so hopefully this will sound the same. Got a bullet truss rod, which is my favourite type of truss rod. It's also got, if you look at, they're called rock and roller string trees, which look remarkably like the Fender ones you get now. Well, I've been buying them, you can get them, they're not that expensive from eBay China if you buy like a packet, half a dozen of them. They're like a couple of quid each, but they seem to be mini rollers, which all goes to help tuning stability rather than your normal string tree. A worthy upgrade, I would have said. Yeah, so let's make some noise with it. It's actually, this one's actually got the original tremolo arm, which is quite good. The one on that I had to just buy one and sort of bend it to shape, so I now know what shape it was actually meant to be. I might actually be swapping the trem arms over just so that keep that one more original. But this is all original as far as I can tell. It's got a few dents and stuff on it, but that doesn't really matter. Yeah, so I'm looking at this as being more stratty. That was how I justified it to myself. You know, if it had just been an HH one, I probably would have been less likely to bid on it, just because it would just be too much the same as that one. But not as expensive. Basically, it doesn't have the binding, it doesn't have a carved top. It's a bolt-on neck. Well, you know, it's just a cheaper guitar. So this comes out as being solid alder, a one-piece maple neck, and a rosewood fingerboard, graphite nut. Not much else to be got from the. So I'm basically running this single coily just now, just because I'm kind of thinking of it as a Strat. It's got the neck on it again is fantastic. It always is on these things. I do like painted necks. I don't like in 1985 when they brought out the other Spectrum series, which there was quite a few models on it. As far as I can tell, this Spectrum in 1984 you only got the 2 and the 3. The 2 being the 2 pickup one, and then the 3 being the 3 pickup one. And then later on, when the Spectrums came out, there was STs and DXs, and you know, they kind of had a whole range of varying in price. So we've got a wee laney, no pedals, bridge single coil. Position 2. Reverb on, so one clean. Then I've used, so they were in single coil on the bridge and middle pickup, the phase reverse them. That's it with the humbucker in the middle, out of phase. Middle pickup on its own. Position 4 being these two, single coil and single coil. Right pickup, single coil. Humbucker. There's one more sound in there. There's out of phase, so single coil, both out of phase. And then humbucker and middle out of phase. Neck back up. Single pedal bridge. We're going to move up to the rat pedal. Humbucker. comfortable guitar to play. It really is. I mean, I had a couple of Spectrums. I had an all blue one, which was really cool, and one I painted orange, which was a DX. I think the all blue one was an SX. I was not so keen on the shapes. This shape I do like. This is very much the Westone Thunder shape. I don't have a Westone Thunder. I need to get one at some point. From what I'm thinking, the Thunder seems to be a bit more Gibson-y, and this is a bit more Fender-y with a 6-a-side headstock and a tremolo. Whereas I think that was kind of what the Concorde was as well. Whereas the Thunders were more hardtail, you know, 2 humbuckers and a Gibson-y type headstock. This is a more stratty take on the same guitar. But it's fantastic. It plays amazing. I used to think I liked my yellow Concorde so much because it was a one-piece maple neck, but I'm quite liking this one as well. Could do a wee bit of a scoosh with the controls. This appears to be, the fingerboard appears to have been painted at some point. It's kind of nearly all worn off, but I think back at this time, you know, you get a rosewood fingerboard, which is obviously quite good quality rosewood. They painted it black just to go with the 1984 vibe, which they did with I know they did that with the later on Spectrum series. This later on Spectrum series also had matte black painted necks, which I didn't like. I do like this though, being blue burst and shiny, but I don't like the matte black painted effort. So I need to do a proper video for Westones. This is a Matsumoku guitar as well. Westone, where Matsumoku's sort of own attempt at modern guitars. I think they started about 1981 with a guitar called a Padwick, which I've never got a hold of yet. It's not quite this shape, but they've all got a sort of similar designer. They do have a sort of look between them. So it's 81 till 87. Westone were made Matsumoku in Japan and nowhere else up until 1987 when the factory closed and they started making them in Korea, which I really don't know anything about those guitars. I've not really seen I've never seen any of them cheap enough for me to bother buying. Also, people keep sending me links to, there's Westone's a Mockingbird. They did some the company, the logo got bought at some point in the 2000s. They were sticking them on Mockingbird and Warlock BC Rich copies. You can tell they've got like a white pickup and a black pickup, single volume control. I actually did a review of, my girlfriend bought a guitar when I was in China called a Star Sun, which was one of those badged Westone ones you occasionally see over here, but it was much older. She paid like £6 for it, so for that, there's a certain point with money with a guitar where you go, it's worth that. But just if you're thinking of getting one of those, the one that looks like a Mockingbird or the one that looks like a Warlock, they're nothing like this guitar. This is a proper pro level Japanese instrument. Those ones are they're not crap, but they are sort of crap. I think they're about £120 new, something like that, and they're not Westones, even though they say Westone on the headstock. There's also some ones that were made by a guy called Sid Poole in England. Made some in I think it was maybe the 90s. You get a Westone that are there's maybe 2 or 3 models that were made in the UK, and they didn't do very well because they put the name Westone on the headstock. I don't know why they were doing that. They should just have called it Status or the guy's name or something that sounded less like, you know, Westones of old, because these used to be very hated. I mean, I think when they came out, they were the best guitars you could buy for the money. You know, you're talking about buying this for half the price of what you know, like a Fender Strat at the time, and it was a better guitar. Pretty unarguably, really. Still they started making the Fenders in Japan as well, in the same factory, or not Matsumoku, but the same idea. So, let's just push that. I think I should really mention of these is the hardware on all the Westone of this era, top notch. Go-to tuners, solid bridge, good pickups, push-pull pots, all is standard and all excellent. No, oh, you can buy that, but you need to change the tuners, or buy that, you need to change the bridge. These things are rock solid, right down the line. I just think they could have made so much more money and they'd be so much more popular if they just copied a Strat, but that's not what they were trying to do. If they just made it Strat shaped, these things would be flying off the shelves and people would love them. It's because it's like, oh no, that's different shaped, can't have that. I've grown to quite like this shape. My first bass was actually, I don't know, it was a Spectrum DX. I think it was maybe an 85, 86 or something like that. So that was kind of when they started painting the neck black, and it wasn't quite this shape. It was a little bit more stratty, but still very similar. I hated that bass because that's back then. Westone were shite. You didn't want them, in the 90s. I think they're starting to go up in price a wee bit now. As I said before, have a look at WestoneGuitars.net, and it's got a list of all the models and brochures for nearly all of them. It's nice having that information so you kind of know what you're getting, but really if you're talking about buying the cheapest, best guitar you can get, then look at Westone. I would have said Westone Spectrums because they tend to be a bit cheaper. Not this one, this is the Spectrum 3. So this is like a 1984 one, but it's like 85, 86 when they went mass production, more so on it. There was lots that were, the basic models got like your 2 humbuckers and a Strat trem, then you go up to this trem, then you go up to a sort of one with a sort of, it's double locking like a Floyd, and the more switches appear the higher up the range you go, and then eventually you get to sort of through neck and stuff like that. But they're all, even the cheapest ones, are excellent quality guitars. I mean, that Concord that I've got, I keep talking about, which I do need to bring out, I loved its simplicity, and it's not really that much simpler than this. Okay, this one has an extra pickup and a 5-way switch, but it's still a pretty basic, if you keep things simple and then just make it really well, this is what you end up with. I mean, I don't know how these compare to modern guitars price wise. As I said, so I looked up the price lists for this in 1984. This was a £220 guitar. I think you're talking about roughly between 2 and 3 times. But it's what, if you multiply that, so this would be like a between £400 and £600 guitar if you were to make it now. Even then, if you put this up against any £400 or £600 guitar now, it'll absolutely wipe the floor with them. So I think you're sort of that, because if you 2 or 3 times, so that was like 300, so that'd be maybe about 900 quid. So even you're kind of maybe sort of between 3 and 4 times. You get what your money was back then. Remember, of course, back then in the 80s, you could buy really, really shit guitars, which were like 100 quid for the cheapest one. You get satellites and things like that, which really, they're not very good. You're well better off spending an extra 50 quid and getting the Westone, which had the good hardware on it, not the cheap crap. But these totally ruled the roost in the 80s. I remember talking to a guy who worked in a guitar shop in 1980, I think he said, when the first Westones came out, that Padwick one I was talking about, which is kind of not quite this shape. It's got a single pickup and it's got like a Padwick top on it. That was the first one, and it was the big thing was it was like the first guitar at £200 that was in all respects a proper touring top-notch guitar, and it was a couple hundred quid. I think pretty soon after that they sort of expanded out and started producing the Thunders and all these things. But I mean, the thing is they just knock spots off anything. The Thunders are much more well regarded than these. If you look in any old guitar, the history of guitar books, there's always a mention of the Westone Thunder because they were sticking out a bass and a guitar that was gig level and half the price of the competition, basically. The fashion police got them a little bit. 1984 fashion I can take. 1985, they started getting a bit less fashionable, and this is obviously in the era of fantastic shaped guitars. Before I was talking about the drop off point being Steve Vai's RG. Once the Steve Vai Gem came out, everything was just super strats, and all the interest kind of wanes away from you a little bit. Just happens to come at the same time as when they stopped making them in Japan, something to do with the well, not the reason Matsumoku closed. It closed because it lost its Singer sewing. They used to make Singer sewing machines and cases for them, and they lost that contract, and that was kind of their main thing that they did, the guitar side. So when they lost the Singer contract, they basically lost the business. Also, there was a problem with the yen. The exchange rate changed a lot, so I think a lot of the guitars around about 1986 or something like that suddenly just doubled in price for people in America. You know, it's like, oh, you can buy the Spectrum, it's $200, brilliant, and then they go back, well, I'll buy that Spectrum, oh, it's $400 now, and it's the same guitar. But, and then that was the last of the great guitars, really, or the great cheap guitars coming from Japan. Then they all moved to Korea, and the thought was, it doesn't really need to be a good guitar, it just needs to look good. So you started just getting these ones that they were all just pretty much identical super strats. You know, all the companies did it, your Washburns and your Arias and your Westones, and the quality just went because suddenly they realised that why are we, working really hard, making a guitar for £100 and selling it for £200 when we could work much less hard, make a guitar for £30 and still get £200 for it. So that's kind of the way it worked. The pride had gone. Trem on this is amazing, really. It's kind of like, it feels like a Floyd, but it's not locking. It seems to hold its tune really well. Two flutters on it. And you know what? Yeah, so I will be doing another, but I'll do a Westone video or something like that, a bit more, get them all out. This is really nice. I had a bit of buyer's remorse when I bought it, when I started realising it was very similar to my Concorde, and when I got that as well, so it's like getting two cool new toys in the same week is a bit pish, but the guy who actually I bought this off used to run, this is WestoneGuitars.net. Before that, there's a site which is still there called Westone Info, and the guy who owned this actually used to run that site, used to have 40 Westones, so he was mad into it. A really, really nice guy. He gave me a brand new set of Elixir polywebs with it as well, so that's just sweetens the deal when you get like a £15 set of strings that are my favourite strings anyway, and it just seems to play effortlessly. I'm not sure how much use the phase thing is. The chorus parts are good though. But it just feels absolutely bulletproof. It really does. I mean, I just have no problem gigging this professionally at all. Being a little bit different as well. It's like you can turn up and play here. I mean, you're really talking money-wise. You're talking comparing this to like any, your Squire Classic Vibes or something like that. It absolutely wipes the floor with them. There's no comparison. Apart from the fact it doesn't look like a 54 Sunburst Strat. No, it doesn't. It's got its own thing. Rock and roll.